Hello and welcome to Talk the Walk. I'm Azam Khan. Both the Hong Kong and central government have made West Asia a top priority for economic and strategic partnership over the past 1 year. The growing influence of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization has created a powerful yet inclusive cooperation in the region. The Belt and Road Initiative has been a base of expanding economic cooperation, including the CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and more countries have voiced interest in integrating with China's mega project. Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang was recently hosted in Islamabad, along with a delegation from Kabul, to enhance the CPEC potentiality going forward. Amid a lack of coverage on developments from mainstream media, a few hit job talking points on debt traps, as well as a narrative surrounding strategic infrastructure like the Gwadar port in Pakistan, a key port in the Belt and Road Initiative plan, have made the rounds, despite a lack of substantiated evidence. Joining me today to discuss the topic from Islamabad is political economist and author of Understanding China for Future Cooperation, Shakeel Ahmad Ramay. Mr. Ramay, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
When President Xi first went to Pakistan to sign the CPEC agreement in 2015, he said the trip was like going to the home to visit that of a brother. Can you talk about the relationship between both countries and where it's come and how the cooperation has been going?
I think from the day one, the both countries have been attached importance to bilateral relation, and they are strengthening their relation not just by talk but by the acts. For example, first trade transaction happened between Pakistan and China way back in 1952. And it will be very interesting for the audience to know that at that time, so the trade balance was in favor of Pakistan. From total 86 million US dollars, so 84 million US dollar Pakistan exported the products to the China. Along the course, if you look at that in the different time periods when Pakistan needed China, when China needed Pakistan, so they both stood by each other. For example, during 60s, when China needed an air corridor to connect with the world, it was Pakistan who provided China. And it was Pakistan who fought the case for China at the United Nations, and also pursued China integration in the global markets and the global governance system. For example, the major breakthrough between China and the US happened due to the Pakistan efforts. That's why China always remember it. These are only two examples. We can also talk about other examples, like in 1980s when Pakistan played a role for the integration of Chinese scientific community to the global community through the program in Italy, where the Pakistani was heading that program. Then the first times in the UNESCO, when a Pakistani, he presented the idea of this Silk Route, tracing the Silk Route and studying the Silk Route in UNESCO, where in a protest, US left the UNESCO. So we can see, and similarly, if we look at the Chinese side, so Chinese side always stood by Pakistan. In the recent time, we have seen when Pakistan has been through the problems like investment crunch in early 20s, like in a few years back when nobody was investing in the Pakistan, it was China who came forward to invest in the Pakistan. And when there are any other problems, so China came forward to assist Pakistan, as President Xi Jinping said during his visit. So Pakistan is our ironclad brother. So that is a very strong, you can say, the very strong statement. One thing. Second thing, President Xi Jinping also mentioned, we never forget how China was helpful for Pakistan during the difficult times. So that's why China will never leave Pakistan. So our relationship are very strong. CPEC is a new phenomenon. But before the CPEC, I would like to share with you, along with other agreements. In 1989, so Pakistan and China also signed an agreement to protect the investment from the both sides. If Pakistani investors will be investing in China, so it will get the protection from the Chinese side. And if Chinese companies or Chinese side will come to Pakistan, Pakistan will provide the protection according to rule and law. So that was the first agreement. After that, the investment started to grow till 2010. So total investment from Chinese company in Pakistan was around 10 to 15 billion US dollar. So we can say even before CPEC came into the existence, so Chinese company and Chinese state company were already investing in Pakistan. So we can say we always enjoyed good cordial relationship.
Right. No, and as someone who's lived and grown up in China, I can say that that relationship has been, it's almost unrivaled in terms of how unwavering it's been in the cross-cultural understanding, the endearment towards one another as two people. But talking on the CPEC, can you, there's some critics that have been saying over the last 1 year Some of the projects within the initiative has slowed down, particularly this year. What are your thoughts on that?
Now, look, Azam, so CPEC was slowed down, but it was not due to the governments. It was due to the COVID-19. You remember when COVID-19 hit the world, so the whole world came to stand still and nothing was moving. Supply chain stopped and then the industry was closed. But at that time, the CPEC was going on. No doubt that the pace was lower, but CPEC was going on. We have to keep in mind it was COVID-19, and it is a big achievement, even if the CPEC was going on the slower rate. Why? On other hand, the whole world was on standstill, but still CPEC was going on. And do you think the lower pace will matter? No. What was matter? So CPEC projects was giving the fruits to the Pakistan. For example, we made an estimate there were future energy companies which provided 23,000 jobs during the COVID-19 to Pakistanis. So this is a huge number at a time when the markets were getting closed. So to misinterpret the fact, I think that will be not a true statement. So we have to keep in mind. So the fact should be the fact, and we have to study the things in the whole context, not in a separately. So we have to remember there was a COVID-19. But definitely Pakistan could not benefit from the CPEC as Pakistan should benefit. For example, at this point of the time, rather 5 years ago, the special economic zones must be operational. Unfortunately, we are still struggling to operationalize the special economic zones. These are facts.
Right. And there's been remarkably limited mainstream media attention in terms of what the CPEC has been able to achieve throughout its lifespan. Can you talk about why that is? And that includes the Gwadar port as well, which I mentioned at the top of the show, which is very strategic importance. So can you also talk about the importance of that port?
Look, Azam, in the Chinese, they have a different habit. They don't come with the drum beating. If you look at the Western countries, if they invest $1, they will spend $10 on their advertisement. So Chinese side is different. So they don't believe in the drum beating. They believe in the real-time interventions. One thing and second thing. So there is objective discussion is going on. We cannot say the propaganda type. So like that every time you see some advertisement or something like that, but definitely objective discussions are going on. Number three, the most of the people, they don't understand Chinese model of work. So that's why they avoid to give the comments, or they avoid to give the you can say the give their comments on that what is happening. But to say that if there is nothing is going on in media, that is wrong. Media publish articles, and there's you can say the talk shows and other things. You can find numerous articles in Pakistani leading newspapers. So you can find there. So media there is talking about, but not like the propaganda style. But the media is talking, you can say that this time the CPEC is attracting objective-oriented discussion. Now, see the second part of your question, Gwadar. Yeah. Definitely, Gwadar is a very important for Pakistan. I don't say strategically, I say it's economically. Why? Because Gwadar is a point which provides Pakistan to become a hub of connectivity if Pakistan utilizes it in a proper way. On one side, if we see there is Afghanistan and Central Asian states who wants to connect. On the other side, if you look at the CPEC route, there was a study they conducted published in International Journal of Transportation. They calculated trade cost of China through the CPEC route and compared it with existing routes of China. They tried to compare the 6 countries. They choose the 6 countries, like in the Middle East, they chosen Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman. Then they chosen from Europe, Netherlands, Germany. So they choose those countries, and they came up with the conclusion: if China adopt the CPEC route, China can save at least $71 billion on annual basis in terms of the cost. That is a huge amount. That means so their competitiveness of Chinese products will increase in these markets. And same is true for those countries. If those countries choose the CPEC route, so their transportation cost will also be decreased. That means the competitiveness of their products will decrease. So in saying this, if Pakistan utilize this Gwadar port in a better way and according to the plan, So it can turn Pakistan into a hub of the connectivity to connect the Central Asian states with the rest of the world. So we can also benefit when the China going to trade through the Pakistan. And for example, I forget to mention one statistics. So if China do the trade through the Pakistan, they will save 71 billion US dollar, and Pakistan can earn 10 to 12 billion US dollar in terms of different types of the fees and the services. So it will be a win-win proposition. So we can say on one side, Gwadar will open a new avenues for connectivity for the landlocked country. On other side, so international markets from the North Africa, from Europe, from Middle East, they can also benefit from CPEC route by utilizing it to export to China.
Right. I also wanted to get your thoughts on the debt traps, which is always sometimes being propagated, which even was kind of shot down by Bloomberg. Did a very comprehensive coverage on that and saying that there's no consistency to it. But I wanted to get your thoughts on it, and especially with regards to with Pakistan.
Look, I was usually I try to believe the Western media and especially Bloomberg on the business. But after reading these reports, I started to doubt their calculations. It is not like that they wrote something about the CPEC. It is about how they made the calculations. First of all, if I should talk about CPEC, then we can talk about other. In CPEC, from the 62 billion US dollar, only 5.67 billion it was debt. So rest of all those that has been agreed, are they operational, have been implemented. So these are the investments. So you can tell me, if something is not a debt, how it can be debt trap? To be debt trap, it needs to be debt, no? And from 62 billion US dollar, if you have only 5.67 billion dollar as a debt and rest is investment, you are forgetting the investment part, but you are focusing on 5.6 billion US dollar. So that is wrong in, you can say wrong analogy. Second part, the 5.67 billion US dollar, they were productive in nature. If you look at the economic literature, so those debts which are productive in nature, they don't tend to fall in the trap, or they don't create problem for the receiving country, because the productive debt always help to create the economic, expand the capacity and try to create the economic opportunities. For example, the main our debt came in the energy sector. At that time, Pakistan needed a huge investment in energy sector.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to pause you right there while we go for a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Mr. Ramay. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Talk the Walk. I'm speaking with Shakeel Ahmad Ramay, political economist and author. Mr. Ramay, you were speaking on the debt trap. You can, if you'd like, you can finish your point on what the last point you had on that remark.
Yeah, so according to the economic point of view, if some debt is productive in nature, so that has a least tendency to fall in the debt trap, or a least tendency to create the problem for the recipient country. Why? Because that debt is being used to expand the capacity. For example, the debt from the CPEC of 5.67 billion, so it was mainly used for the energy sector. And you remember in 2013-14, Pakistan was losing 4 to 5 billion US dollar due to the electricity load shedding. If you bring these statistics to till today, so that's meant it would be around 15 to 20 billion US dollar. At least I'm saying you the lower number. It can be more. And what would be the spectrum of the of other problem of Pakistan? Industry would be leaving Pakistan, because Pakistan would not be able to meet their demand. So in this sense, one thing, if something is not debt, like I told you, so major chunk from $62 billion agreements, it was investment. So investment, something is not a debt, or it can be debt trap.
Right.
Second, it was a debt, it was a productive debt.
Right. It's a very different debt towards what debt is otherwise understood when it comes to financial debts from banks. But actually, I also really want to quickly get your opinion on, very recently, the Pakistan just agreed to a bailout, a $3 billion bailout with the IMF. What are your thoughts on that?
And I know good you came there by this point. That gave us a breathing space. But before that breathing space, when the IMF and our other friends, they were not coming forward to assist Pakistan or help Pakistan to avoid the default, it was China who was helping Pakistan to avoid the default through one way and another way. So China had put their efforts to save Pakistan for the default. The $3 billion US, and these are again is a debt, So definitely we have taken this debt to repay the other types of the debt.
Much needed,
So
right? It's much needed breathing
needed,
room.
but it will create problem because it is not a productive debt. It is a
Right.
debt to repay other type of the debt. So that will create a new cycle of, you can say, of the problem for the
Just
Pakistan.
a pure bank loan, yeah.
A bank loan, and that is the problem for the Pakistan for the last 40-50 years when we are taking debt from the IMF and the Western financial institutions. So that's why I say so Western financial institution debt is a real debt trap for Pakistan,
Right.
like many other countries in the world.
Right. I want to shift to President Xi recently gave a virtual speech at the SCO summit, the Council of Head of State meeting earlier. What were your initial thoughts on the summit?
Sorry, what you want to know?
The President Xi recently gave a virtual speech at the SCO virtual summit that was hosted by New Delhi. I just wanted to get your thoughts on the summit.
I think, first of all, we must congratulate all the members. They joined it. But unfortunately, maybe some diplomatic reasons are there also, you can conspiracy theories. India deliberately did not organize this event physically, although it was planned as a physical event. So, but it was a good event. But the speech of President Xi Jinping, there are many points which he spoke about, but 2 or 3 points which are very important for me. So, which if I look at that, number one, he talked about to create trust. Trust is very important among all the members. How it can be increased, that you have to look for. And one proposal for that is to more connectivity and more communication. Why I am saying it's important, because if we look at the external interference in the region from the Western countries, they are trying to create conflict in the South China Sea or the East China Sea and other borders of China. They have adopted this Quad policy, where India is member of that, to contain China. So in this backdrop, so it is very important to create trust among all the members of SCO. That's why I feel this is a very important statement. Second, so China is, President Xi Jinping said, we are working to enhance our economic cooperation and to economic connectivity with the world. That is very important, because at this point of the time we see, so the China will be leading this year, so the total growth of the world, like 34.9%, it will be coming from China. And if China is willing to connect with the world, that's mean definitely it will help the global growth and other developing countries. And through the BRI and the Global Development Initiative, other initiatives, China can also help the least developed and the developing countries who need investment and assistance to grow. And the third thing, which I usually don't listen from the international leadership, President Xi Jinping talked about youth professional farmers. To talk about, especially about the farmers and their needs, it is extremely important. Why? Because in this region, agriculture is the main occupation which can help to reduce poverty, which can also help to improve the food security. So if the world is, other SCO members, they are able to create some pools and train those professional farmers, young professional farmers, definitely they will help those countries to fight back the poverty and the food insecurity in this region. This can also set a new trend, so the young generation can again be motivated to join the agriculture sector.
Right. You mentioned the Global Development Index. That's a new major initiative of Beijing's. That's sort of it has a very different style to the Belt and Road Initiative. It's a whole different purpose to it. It's supposed to be following more of the UN Charter, more talking about the cooperation and the inclusiveness of different nations. So can you just talk about the GDI and Pakistan's, what kind of role Pakistan can play in it or wants to play in it?
Look, BRI is a pure economic growth initiative, which China is trying to help the world to get the economic growth and solve their problem. China is also trying to, you can say, bridge the investment gap which world is facing right now at this point of the time. But the Global Development Initiative is more prone towards a sustainable development goal like. So China is willing to help the countries if they are feeling they have the shortfall, they are to fight back the problems like the climate change, poverty. Even China has the money for the trade capacity building and the IT and other sectors. So this is more like the sustainable development goal, or as you can say, the assistance program which China is making. But what is different from the sustainable development goal or other Western style development goal? So China did not keep any program in it. So like if somebody want to join, so this is a program, join with these terms and conditions. China said, no, you come with your proposals, what you need. For example, is for the poverty reduction, what you need? Do you need policy support or you need the practical interventions or climate change? What you need? You tell us.
You mean rather than them coming with their own one and trying to impose it, right?
Impose. So that's a China. That is a difference between the GDI and other development and Western style of the you can say the initiatives. And the second thing, it include all the areas which where so developing countries and the least developed countries, they need help at this point of the time. Like climate change is the biggest challenge, food insecurity is one of the biggest challenge, and this poverty is a challenge. IT are the trade linkages and these you can say the linkages and the capacity to negotiate. So China is trying to help the countries in these all areas by bringing the investment there. So it has, you can say, it has been tailored according to the needs of the developing countries, and it's not has been trained to the needs of the few big companies who can benefit, multinational companies from the benefit, or you have to buy those things, otherwise you will not get the assistance. So that's a different program from the other program. And the good thing is that China is putting equal weight on that. We have a limited time, otherwise we can analyze this initiative through the philosophy of China or the international relation,
Right.
where the China, how China has moved that on that.
No, I wanted to also get your thoughts on the visit of Qingang to Islamabad with his delegation early this year. And it was also included, Kabul's delegation was also included. And I feel like that was quite an important meeting because of the importance of the stability of Kabul going forward. Its security with regards to its relations with Pakistan, all of that plays into a role of the health and the future of the CPEC. So can you just talk about the significance of that meeting and what came from it?
In this meeting, apart from other areas, so three foreign ministers, they spoke about the possibility of the extension of CPEC to Afghanistan. I think it would be a win-win idea if it is implemented. How I can say it's a win-win? At this point of the time, what Afghanistan needs? Afghanistan needs infrastructure, not only the roads and transportation, but also in energy. For example, at this point of the time, Afghanistan import 80 to 85% electricity. So just you can imagine 80 to 85% electricity they have to import. And without electricity, you cannot think about the industrialization process or any other activity. So this can provide, in these two areas, CPEC can provide them help to build the infrastructure, and to build the infrastructure in the not only road and other things, but also in energy. It will also help them to create the jobs which are direly needed at this point of the time. You know that Afghani youth, they are looking for the opportunities. Simultaneously, it will also provide an opportunity for Afghanistan to connect to the Gwadar port, because Afghanistan is a landlocked country, and there in the past there was problems between Pakistan and China during the different governments. So if Afghanistan become the part of the CPEC, so those problems will be overcome. Because what would be the situation? But their CPEC route will be continue to be operated, and this other way Pakistan can also get the benefit to connect with Afghanistan and to the Central Asia. So it will be a win-win proposition, and that's why I'm thinking there's a positive development is going on, and maybe we'll hear some good news in the coming weeks.
I'm going to have to pause you, stop you right there. We're out of time. Thank you so much for taking the time, though, to speak with me. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you same time next week. Goodbye.